Good morning, good noon, or good afternoon, whatever time you are watching this educational video. I have I have question here, one question. When to tell that zeros are significant or they are part of the counting, or when when your teacher will ask you how many significant figures in this particular numbers. Okay? So again, the question is when to tell that zeros are significant. How many numbers of significant figures are in the following? So I will be presenting a few sets of numbers here, and then you will guess how many significant figures are in these numbers. Okay. So you can pause this video and then try to guess. Then we will rationalize, or we will reveal the answer later on. Okay. So let's be quick. Let's reveal the answer now. All right. So if you notice 35.1, there are three sig figs. By the way, the word or the terms sig figs, it's acceptable as a shortcut for significant figures. And then we have 17,875. There are five. I guess there's wrong with the answer for the second bullet. It must be, yeah, it's five. Sorry, it's five. And then you have 2.8. You have two sig figs there, and the last one you have 297. So what's the rule behind? Why is it that in first bullet there are three sig figs, in the second bullet we have five, and so on and so forth? So it lies in this, let's say, rule. Okay, rule number one. This rule states that whatever digits that are non-zero, not zero, literally speaking, they are significant. So you will include these figures as significant. They are needed in the counting, or let's say, in identifying significant figures. Okay. Okay, I cannot go back to the previous slide. Uh-huh. Okay, so let's proceed with the next one. Here are the following bullets with numbers there. And the question, let's go back to the question. When to tell that zeros are significant? So let's try to focus on the zeros there. So if you notice, zeros are located or situated in the middle or in between non-zeros or digits. Okay? And I want you to pause for a while and yeah, try to guess how many significant figures. All right, let's be quick. The answers are following. In the first bullet, we have 6.002 zeros there are counted because the answer is for sig fig. So zeros are significant in this number. 702, three sig figs, zeros in there in this number is significant, as well as the third and fourth bullets. Zeros are significant. So the rule behind this lies in this statement. So zeros being sandwiched or in between digits are significant. Okay, right to see. And we have zeros here in between non-digits. So they are significant. You need to count them. They are crucial or important digits or numbers. Next, we have these sets of numbers. If you notice, zeros now are not in between. Zeros are situated before the non-zero digit. And if you notice, all the numbers here are decimal numbers less than 1. Okay, so let's be quick. How many significant figures in this slide? The answers, I will reveal to you now the answers. The answers are following. In the first bullet, it says two sig figs. So we have 4 and 5 as significant figures. We have 7, 1, and 2. We have, oh, in this case, from 2 to 5, we we will go back to the previous statement that zero sandwich in between digits is significant. That's why it's 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then the last, we have 5 sig figs. Meaning to say the zeros there, right? It's very clear now that the zeros before, we call it the leading zeros. Zeros before the non-zero of a decimal number less than 1, they are just they're not significant, so we will not include them in the counting. Okay, so the rule and the previous sets of numbers, zeros before the non-zero digits are not significant, so please remember that one. Okay, so we have how many numbers of significant figures in the following. So in this case, all right, so you can apply, you can combine, I mean, you can incorporate the different statements you've learned in the past slide. Okay, in this number, let's focus on the zeros. Zeros, they're located after the non-zero. And in this case, we know this. These are insignificant because these are leading zeros before the non-zero. But we still have zeros here. Okay? And then in this case, yeah, this is insignificant, not significant. And then we also have zeros in the end. Yeah. And then zeros again here. And we have 0 and consider this as a decimal point. Okay? So what do you think are the number of significant figures in the following digits? So let's be quick. Let's reveal the answer. In the first bullet, so we only have two sig figs here. Probably it's 4 and 5. And these are insignificant. Okay. Now, in this case, for sure, this is insignificant. And we have 5 sig figs here. So they considered this 0 and this 0 and this 0 as significant figures in this case. Okay. And then we have 4, 5, 6. We only have 5 sig figs. I mean, we only have three, sorry, we only have three sig figs here. So it's just related to how they come up with the answer in the first bullet. Okay. They never include, or it never includes these three zeros here. Same in this next bullet. So the zeros before 5 are insignificant. So we only have one sig fig in this 500,000 figure. And then in 2.0, it's decimal number greater than 1, right? 0 here is crucial. 0 is significant. It's included in the counting of the significant figures. Here, it's still a decimal number because we have decimal point here, although we never see any number after the decimal point, but still, zeros here are significant. So what's the rule behind? Okay, let's reveal. Trailing zeros, when we say trailing zeros, these are zeros after the the digit or the non-zero. For example, we have 5 million. So the zeros after 5, we call it trailing zeros. But in whole number, trailing zeros are not significant. However, in decimal number, trailing zeros are significant. So we should be very careful about it. Again, trailing zeros in whole number, zeros there are not significant. But in trailing zeros in a decimal number, zeros are significant. If the number in a decimal is greater than 1, all zeros after the decimal point are significant. It's just like connected to the second statement here. Okay. For example, we have 50. I'm very sorry for my handwriting. Okay, 50 is a whole number. So 0 after the digit 5 is not significant. So you only have one sig fig in this number. But if ever you will have 0, or let's say 50.0, it's a decimal number greater than 1. So our sig fig here, and when it's a decimal number, zeros are significant, right? So we have 3 sig figs in this case. Thank you. Now, let's have, oh, I'm very sorry because there's still one more important statement here. If a number is less than 1, I hope you can still read the words there. Then only zeros that are at the end or in the middle of the non-zero numbers are significant. It's just a combination of the previous rules or statements we had encountered earlier. For example, you have 0 point, it's a decimal number, 0, let's say 2, and then another 0 and 1. This is a decimal number less than 1. Obviously, it's a less than 1. So this is not a trailing zeros, it's a leading zeros. Leading zeros here are insignificant, not significant. But we have 0 in between non-zero digits, so we will consider it as significant. All right? So in this case, we have 3 significant figures. But if we will add 0 here, so we have 20100, since it's a decimal number less than 1, um, zeros here are significant. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 significant figures. Okay. Now we have a special like situation where your physics teacher or your mathematics teacher, your science teacher will use this bar sign. We will name that bar sign later on. So for example, you have these figures and then you notice that we have here a bar above the zeros. These bars are very important in determining the significant figures. So how many numbers of significant figures are in the following? Okay, so let's reveal the answer. In the first bullet, we have 5 sig figs. So literally speaking, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So they never include this. They exclude it. It excluded. Okay. And then you have this one. It's 3 sig figs, so they count everything. The zeros there. And then in this case, without the bar, without the bar sign above this 0, we can tell that it's only one sig fig. But there's a bar above this 0 here, so we will include it in the counting. So we have 2 sig figs. And in this case, they never exclude this from this 0 going to this figure. So you can count 7 sig figs here. So it's very clear that, all right, it's called a special rule, but in other references, it's not it's not a special rule. Okay. With the appearance of the bar, we call it in math as vinculum. The bar sign is also known as the vinculum. It indicates that all digits or zeros after the 0 with bar above it or with the vinculum above it are not significant. Okay. It's not included in the counting of significant figures. For example, um, now let's determine the number of significant figures and the rule being anchored with it. Let's try to find out not the rule but statements that support why our answers are like this or like that. Okay. Of course, first one, let's try to answer it on our own, and then we will. Okay, hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay, take your time. Okay, let's try to rationalize one by one. Number one, it's 0.00025. It's a decimal number less than one, meaning to say the leading zeros here are insignificant. So we can say in this case we have two sig fig here, right? The next, it's a decimal number greater than one. So if you could still recall, when it's greater than one, zero here is significant. So it's the three. In this case, we have zeros in between, non-zeros, so we can count them as significant. So we have four sig figs. And then fourth number, we can have two statements here to support this number here is a decimal number greater than one. Okay, so zeros are all significant in this case. And all right, it's a trailing zeros, but they are significant. So it's five. And then this number is very long, but we have a vinculum sign here. So this is automatically not included. And then this leading zeros here are not included also because it's a decimal number less than one. We have zeros in between, non-zeros, we will include them. And since we have bar here, so we will include this as significant figure. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We have six significant figures here, or sig figs. This one, very, very basic. Non-zeros are significant, so we have three. Let's check our answer. We have two, three, five, six, and three. That's it. Thank you so much for listening, and see you again until next time.